It's time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
As I was walking down the street one day, a man came up to me and asked me what the time was that was on my watch. Yeah, and I said, does anybody really know what time it is?
Aye. Aye, what a stinker of a football game last night. Georgia was just too fast. They were too physical.
To everything.
They had a better plan. Wow. I mean, that was disaster, and now we have two-time champions. Could we have the first one in like 100 years to win 3 in a row? Could that happen? For Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, we'll discuss. The Grizz win 7 in a row, but you know, that darn Denver Nugget team keeps winning too, so they remain tied for the top of the West. And I have a question for you, J-Mo, regarding that a little bit later in this opening segment. We will talk to Jeff Moore about the National Football League. Mike DeCourcy, his bracketology will come out later today. We'll talk with him about that, see if we can get anything out of him. And the best news that I saw in a while, last night it came out. D'Angelo Williams gets into the College Football Hall of Fame. He becomes the first Tiger player ever to get in. He becomes the third University of Memphis person that is in the hall. Last year, so this is going to be 2 years in a row. Last year, Billy Murphy got in. And I'll be honest with you, Alan McKean was the first one in. No one really even knew Alan McKean or that he was in because we were all thinking Billy Murphy was the first guy. But no, it wasn't Spook. It was McKean, and now it will be D'Angelo. You know, D'Angelo Williams, I will never forget the press conference that he had with Tommy West to announce that he was going to either stay or go. And you know how D'Angelo did that? Have you ever seen any of that video or anything?
I don't think I have.
It was great. First of all, he was crazy to come back because he'd done everything he could have, and he was going to be a first-round choice. And he'd been injured a couple of times in his career. So the sense was, there's no way D'Angelo Williams is coming back. Even I thought that. I'm not sure what Tommy West thought about that. And he comes, and the first words out of his mouth are, I have decided to forego. Right? So there's not a person in that place, I promise you. If they say differently, they're lying. When he said forego, it was like, he's going. But we knew it, right? I've decided to forego my NFL career. And like there's a hesitation, and then the place goes crazy. So he stayed. It worked out okay because I think he made plenty of money. I think he lives a good life in Charlotte. He comes back every once in a while. I don't think he comes back quite as often since his mother passed away, who was still living, I believe, in Marion, Arkansas. Here's the numbers on or some of them on D'Angelo. He had 34 100 rushing yard games. 34. Like he was automatic. Like in his last bowl game when everybody thought he would sit that out too, he had like 223 in that game in the Motor City Bowl. He ended up with 6,026 rushing yards, which I think might be 7 all-time college. When he left, he was the number 1 all-time all-purpose yardage guy with 7,573. I think that has been – I think he's 4 now.
34 times rushing for 100 yards is second in college football history behind Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I knew it was up there. Well, Six,
And Adrian Peterson did it in 54 of his 57 games, by the way, which is also incredible.
54 out of 57?
That's what it says here.
That's crazy. So that's like shattering the 34 that D'Angelo had. But if you look at it, 6,026 rushing yards, I believe that's number 7 all time. I mean, there's no question he was going to get in the Hall. He's the number 4 all-time all-purpose yardage guy. He's number 2 in 100-yard games. He's number 7 in all-time rushing, I think, with 6,026. He was a first-team All-American. One year he was a fourth-team All-American or a third-team All-American another year, like maybe his sophomore year. There's no way he's not getting into the Hall. He just had to be retired long enough.
6th all-time, D'Angelo. 6th,
Sixth all-time with
6,000
6,000 yards?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And 75-73, that I'm almost certain is 4th. And when he left, it was number 1 all-time in all-purpose yards. I actually thought he still had that, but I saw the story today where it's 4th.
Unbelievable names. Jonathan Taylor's on this list ahead of him. Ricky Williams had over 6,000 yards rushing. This is elite company.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So he was 7th in the Heisman. And that last year he stuck around, he ended up 2nd in the Doak Walker to Reggie Bush. No schmo there, right? Nothing to be ashamed of. So in December in Las Vegas, our friend, I'm so happy for him and his family and all his friends, guys like Romeo who still hang out with him a bunch. They'll all be in Vegas, I'm sure, next December for the induction of D'Angelo Williams into the Hall of Fame. And never has there been a more engaging personality to interview after games. Even as a college kid, he was always funny and tried to poke fun at Tommy West. They had an interesting relationship. He wanted Tommy to let him throw the football on occasion, and Tommy just said, "You are not doing it. We've watched you in practice." It was really, really a fun time. They went to bowls. I don't think they ever won a conference championship, but every game, the guy did something amazing. And the best story that I can remember in that regard, I'm interviewing him on a post-game interview, and he started talking about he had a long run. And I'm making this up, and I'm going to say it was a 75-yard run, and he was going from north to south, okay? So figure the south end zone, and what's in the south end zone? That's where the Jumbotron is. And he said he was using the Jumbotron to see who was behind him and literally veered to his left because he saw a guy approaching. Now, who else would have done that? And you know what Tommy West said? It's a good thing he was going in that direction. What would he have done if he was going to the north end zone?
To turn his head around. I think I've heard that story before, and that's just as remarkable every time you hear it. The fact that this guy had the presence of mind to look at the screen, know his orientation on the field, know who's behind him. It's incredible.
It is incredible. And if it's true, but if it isn't, it's even more creative. I love it. He was a character. I'm so happy for him and his family. This is great news. We'll talk to Jeff Moore a little bit about this. DeMar Hamlin, they flew him home. He's already back in Buffalo. They say now he's in stable condition. He does still need at Buffalo General, so he went back to the hospital. More recovery, more rehab. But he's up and he's walking. He apparently watched the game on Sunday, cheered, and he's back to a regular diet. So he's eating regular food again. So this all portends to be really, really a good ending to that. All right. It was not a good ending, not a good game. National Football Championship game for college. I really thought Georgia was going to win the game, but I thought it would be a battle. If you think about what TCU had done it all year, all the great comebacks they'd had, they did beat Michigan last week. For those that are going to say now, all the Alabama guys, they never should have been in anyway. They lost that last game. They shouldn't have been in.
Do it against Alabama.
Oh, yeah, all those. Well, first of all,
That's what they're saying.
All the Alabama people, did I tell you about my mini argument in the bar?
You did. You were a Vol that day, which has to be the first time you've ever bled orange in that regard.
Well, the truth of it is I'm objective.
That's right.
They have no stake to be in that game. They lost 2 times. The team that beat them, one of them, who scored 52 on their defense, the University of Tennessee has more to say about being in than Alabama does. You know, I think it's a touchy time period for Alabama fans.
Oh, last night David Pollack is sitting next to Nick Saban saying Georgia has taken over the sport of college football. And Nick Saban's sitting not even 4 feet away from him. That's a bold thing to do.
It's true.
It is true.
They've won back-to-back. If you can look this up, I'm trying to remember, because I think I saw it on a graphic, but it's like the 1930s maybe. When's the last time a college football team won 3 national titles in a row? We know Bama did it. We know Nebraska did it. And we know USC did it.
It was the 30s.
How about that?
It was the Minnesota Golden Gophers winning in 34, 35, and 36.
Wow.
They posted 3 straight, back-to-back 8-0 campaigns and then a 7-1 campaign to be 3-time national champions. I think the sport's changed a little bit since then.
Probably. Just a little.
Army technically has a claim to a three-peat in the 40s, but that was...
What about Oklahoma when they won their 44 games in a row? They had a win, at least back-to-backers.
It doesn't look like it, according to this. This is from DraftKings. Their story on the subject says that Minnesota did it unanimously, and Army has a claim to do it in the 40s, 44, 45, and 46.
Because we never played that out.
That's
that
right.
was polls.
That's right.
And when you say split, you had the AP, which still is in existence. You had UPI, United Press International, which is no longer in existence. And the coaches decided to have their own poll when UPI no longer did one. So
I miss those days, to be honest with you.
You'd rather have it chosen by sports writers?
I love a sports writer in Oklahoma City sending in his vote today on this Monday or Tuesday after the last game, and that decides the champion. And
Not
then we
me.
all argue about it.
Not me.
It gives us something to say on the radio.
It is good for talk radio. I'll give you that one. It is good for talk radio. But so Georgia looks like they're going to be dominant right off the bat. But you know what? Here comes the big play. And we learned yesterday that TCU had the number 1 most explosive 50-yard plus plays all year, number 2 at 40-yard plus plays, right? We learned that from John Thompson. So what do? They get that 50-yarder right off the bat to make it a 10-7 game. And I'm a little worried about this thing because it already appears to me they're just bigger, faster, stronger. Okay? But it's TCU, right? Back in at 10-7 and then 55 straight points. I mean, that's unreal. What was impressive was, I think, let's start with team speed. There were several occasions, particularly early on, when you were trying to get an indicator of how this game was going to go, where TCU was absolutely in position defensively to make the stop, maybe a gain of a couple, and then Georgia outran them. Just outran them to the edge, to wherever they had to go. They were just too fast. Then you look at dominant line play, bigger and stronger. I am telling you, both lines were totally dominant. Did anybody ever touch Stetson Bennett that wore a purple uniform last night?
Not that I can remember.
I don't think so. Did poor Max Duggan ever have a second to look over the field? Maybe the one play that was the bust in the defensive secondary. The guy had no time.
It seemed like every time I looked up, he was being mauled by a Georgia defensive player.
Or 2 or 3.
Or 3. That's exactly right. There was one play, speaking of team speed that you talked about. I remember one play I saw last night. They ran a reverse to Brock Bowers. This is the tight end on Georgia.
Right.
Ran a reverse to him, and he just cuts upfield for a 6-yard gain.
Well,
I've never seen a tight end move that fast in college football.
Well, he is the best tight end in college football, I think.
Undoubtedly.
You know,
Undoubtedly.
Caden Prescore, now an Ole Miss Rebel, might make that make that call next year. But he's incredible. He's only a sophomore, this kid.
Yeah, I didn't even know he couldn't go to the NFL draft until Greg Gaston told me this morning. I was like, this guy's ready for the NFL.
I looked it up last night. Well, here
they should make an exception for just him alone, just of the Brock Bowers rule.
Well, that's the other thing. You got to go to Todd Monken, the OC, because let's face it, Kirby's a defensive guy. He was Nick Saban's DC for 7, 9 years, however long it was. He's only 47. I mean, he could keep this dynasty going. I mean, they're the favorites, by the way, to win the national title again next year. I think Bama is second. But last night, Monken's game plan, use of the tight end, not just Bowers. There was another tight end that was used for a touchdown. Also, the way they used TCU's aggression against them, they knew every play that was coming. Sometimes when you got a month to prepare, well, they didn't have a month to prepare, right? They only had the 8 days or whatever it was. But they did a great job. They knew every tendency, and when you got a month, maybe you can look for. So that they may have examined Michigan and TCU a bunch while they were preparing for Ohio State.
So it has here Alabama, Ohio State both in second behind Georgia as second favorites there. You mentioned the other tight end that played last night.
And USC is fourth, right?
Michigan is fourth at plus 800, and USC right behind them there.
Okay.
That's according to the action.
Where's Tennessee in that?
Tennessee down there. After USC, it's Clemson, Texas, then Tennessee right there at plus 2,000. The same odds as Florida State. How about that, Mike Norvell?
Well, here's everybody now is saying this is the new dynasty, and back-to-back is incredible.
Could be.
But we were saying the same sort of thing about Dabo Swinney not too long ago. Obviously, and rightfully so, we were saying about Saban. Swinney could come back. It's not like over there. And I'm telling you, Florida State with Norvell, they may make a move. The ACC's not going to stay down forever. So it's a hard thing to do.
I mean, Georgia almost
to keep this kind of thing rolling. I mean, you can't go 29-1 over 2 years very often. I'm sorry, because if you could, it would have happened more times in history.
There's a scenario where Georgia could have lost to Missouri this year. Missouri had them on the ropes, and it's one loss like that. The way college football landscape works is that takes you out. You mentioned another tight end that caught a pass. Darnell Washington, their backup tight end, 6'7", 270 pounds. That's the backup tight end at the University of Georgia.
Is he back there next year?
He's a junior, so I mean he could go out in the draft, but he might be back.
Well, Bowers is back for sure. It was crazy. All right, real quick, because we didn't get into this at all. Grizzlies win their 7th in a row, still tied, as I mentioned, with Denver that beat the Lakers. Both now 27-13. So here's my question for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
So the halfway mark comes with the next game. If the Grizzlies win that game, and by the way, it's tomorrow night, and it's once again against San Antonio, so they're going to be double-digit favorites to win that game, and I would assume Ja will play in this game. By the way, it was good to have Adams back. He had a double-double, 13 and 15. He had 4 assists in that game. Tillman played well. He had 9 points, 9 rebounds.
Tillman did play well.
They won the rebound battle by 8 when you get him back. Adams, you get that. Jones again was great for Ja, 24 points.
He and his brother going head-to-head last night. 6
assists. Triple J, 5 more blocks, 16 and 6. Bain, 15 points and 4 assists. They're just so consistent. If they win that game, it will be their 28th at the halfway mark. That means they're on pace to equal the 56 wins of last year. We have debated this, and basically we have said, no Anderson, no Melton. This team, Laravia, Roddy, not quite the same. Not as good. But now I ask you, you're at the halfway point, and you've got 56 on pace for that. Are you as good, or are you better, or are you not as good? What do you think?
I'm going to say not as good. for the specific reason that I believe when I looked yesterday, they were 22nd in strength of schedule so far this year, 29th in offensive strength of schedule against teams they played, which would lead you to believe that the second half of their year is going to be loaded with tougher games, tougher opponents, tougher situations. And for that reason, I'm going to say not as good. But that just means they're not going to get 56 wins necessarily. It doesn't mean they're not going to make a playoff run or they're not a good team. But for that reason, I'm going to say not as good. What about you?
I tend to agree with you.
And their bench isn't as good. Just being it bluntly.
That's it. The bench is not as dependable. Now, is Ja a little bit better? I think he is. Is Triple J a little bit better when he's healthy? I think he is.
I think Dylan's been better too.
Boy, I'll tell you what.
He's guarding really well.
He is. But he was a really good defensive player last year. I'm not going to say he's ended better defensively than he was a year ago. I would just say this. I don't know if Taylor Jenkins talks to Dylan in these terms, and maybe it's a deal they make. He'll play that hard on defense. If that dude, and I hate to say it, I would say the same thing for Kendrick Davis for the Tigers. If they would just concentrate and give up, unless it's totally wide open and you're being dared, give up your threes. He was, 1 of 4 from 3 last night?
Yeah.
What is Dylan? Look up Dylan Brooks' percentage from three-point range. I know that Kendrick Davis can't be any more than 28%. And if he abandoned threes and just went to the hole or mid-range jumpers, I guarantee you he'd be at 50%.
Dylan's 34% from 3. So not
Wow, that's better than I thought.
Yeah, not terrible.
That's better than I thought. But just think if he stepped inside the arc, how much better his percentages would be.
It's great from the elbow, automatic from the elbow.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I love when he goes inside. And he's a good free throw shooter when he gets hit. And he draws fouls. So, anyway, I tend to think they're just not as deep. I think they are. Some of the guys that were there from a year ago, like Bain too, I think they're a little bit better. That offsets it. But you got to have a bench. And there's no Melton. There's no Anderson. It is not as deep. Roddy is a nice surprise, but he's not either of those guys yet.
And he didn't play
and
last
Laravia, Conchar,
He's playing better too, though. Playing good defense too. Zaire's getting back into it a little bit more.
Yeah, Zaire looks a little bit better, but I've not really ever totally been sold on him. Last year, I wasn't totally sold on him.
And I'll tell you who's gotten the biggest improvement on the entire team, I think, is Santi Aldama.
He has
played
you're right
remarkable.
about that. From the first time I saw Santi Aldama, who was nervous as could be, to now, that is 180. That guy is much improved.
Played great.
And you know what? He may be one of those guys at the end of this year where you go, wait, they are as deep because he's that good. He could end up being that. And if Zaire Williams comes through, if Roddy ends up at the end of the year being really good, there's still that chance that they'll be as deep. But at this moment, I would say no. At this moment, and as you said, the schedule's got to get tougher. So we'll see. But I think you got to be pretty pleased. You're at the top of the Western Conference. You've won 7 games in a row.
Certainly
You're about
so.
to win 8 in a row. You should on paper, and that would get you on that 56-game win streak. Our friend Jeff Moore is going to join us here in a moment. I'm sitting in the Family Leisure Studios. I want to remind you about that floor model sale with the lowest prices on the year now on pool tables, spas, patio furniture, and game tables. Also arcades, and we're telling you last chance for 2022 pools. You get a great price. At I-40 and Wooden Road, where family and fun come together, and right now we got the floor model sale going on at Family Leisure. Our title sponsor? Well, that's easy. That's Homer. Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch. They've been with us for so long, and we're so proud of that association. And I will just tell you, they've got a new program going on all the way through the month of January, where you can go right into that lot, which is, by the way, very easy to get to. It's Highway 78, which is Lamar. First exit in Mississippi is Craft Road. It's 12 minutes away. You go there, you turn left, go see Chris True and the gang that's been together for a long time, and ask about their new deferment payment, where you pick out any new Hyundai, best product on the market. Pick out any new car, and don't worry about paying for 90 days. You've got 3 months to think about it. 90-day deferment payment only at Homer Skelton Hyundai. Jeff Moore on the NFL. That comes your way in a minute.
Let former Memphis Tiger Gabe Kuhn and Brett Norsworthy take you home every afternoon with Sports Time on Sports 56. Weekdays from 3 to 6 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test-driven, checked out from head to toe. Unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment. DeSoto Auto Sales cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutosales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
Hi, everybody. Greg Gaston for FanDuel. Add a little excitement to your sports watching experience by betting on all the action on FanDuel Sportsbook. There's a reason why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Their app is simple to use. They've got great odds on all different betting markets, unique fun bet types like same-game parlays, and exclusive always-on promotions such as enhanced odds boosts on the biggest events to let you get more action out of every game day. And if you win, they even get you your winnings safely in as little as 24 hours. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started, and be sure to sign up with promo code GASMAN so they know I sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code GASMAN. Must be 21 or over and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit is required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions do apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call Tennessee Redline at 1-800-889-9789.
Hey, Zeke, where's Gabe? There's no easy way to say this, so I'm just going to say it. Over the holidays, Gabe ate himself into a Central Barbecue food coma. He what now? Between all the Central Barbecue takeout and all the Central Barbecue gift cards that he got. He ate himself into a Central Barbecue food coma. Exactly. He's completely unresponsive except when there's a game on. Isn't that pretty much always the case with Gabe? Now it's even worse. Thanks to Central Barbecue and Gabe's addiction to it, he couldn't even be roused to watch the Camellia Bowl. Well, what can we do? Is there a cure? We have no way of knowing. All we can do now is wait and pray.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Well, we told you the good news earlier about D'Angelo Williams getting into the College Football Hall of Fame. Just getting this news, sad news. Apparently this happened maybe late last night, early this morning. Former Millington great Ahmad Galloway, who played for Alabama, played for the Denver Broncos for several years, passed away. Not sure exactly what happened. He's a young guy. I can't believe he'd be any older than his late 40s. But Ahmad Galloway passing away. We talk NFL football on Tuesdays throughout the season with our friend Jeff Moore, former Tennessee Volunteer. And go ahead. So, wait,
I don't hear you.
You don't hear me. That is wild. Do you hear me now? How about this? Okay, now we got it. I've had more trouble with this morning. I had it in the wrong slot at once.
Well, the Spurs lost their broadcast last night, so we're in good company with audio difficulties
Oh,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah. You'll have to talk for a second. But apparently they brought the analysts to make it a joint broadcast. They brought the analysts from the Spurs over, so you got both perspectives on the broadcast with Brevin Knight, and Pete was the guy in the middle. And apparently it was a intriguing broadcast. Anyway, let's get on to the NFL. We've got the playoffs all set. Let's start, though, with DeMar Hamlin, who's already back. I think did we discuss this a little bit last? Yeah, we did, about how scary the whole thing was. But, the fact that he's back already, flown to Buffalo, although in the hospital, stable condition, eating real food again, up and walking, watched the game, watched the incredible returns, it was like an answer from heaven, wasn't it? I mean, what a story that whole thing is.
Yeah, it is. It is a great story, and I think it makes for this Buffalo team being an even more special team going into the playoffs. That they have that emotional lift from just seeing their teammate recover and be pulling for them and giving them one extra thing to play for. They've been battle tested. I think they're the best team in the AFC going into the playoffs. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens from here.
It really is. The Chiefs get the bye in the West, but if it comes down to an AFC Championship game between Kansas City and Buffalo, they're going to play that on a neutral. Would you have rather seen a coin flip, or do you like the idea of a neutral? And let me take this a step further to ask you. Some think if this is really successful, that the NFL will then bid out the semifinals and play the NFC Championship and the AFC Championship like they do the Super Bowl on neutrals. Personally, I think that's a slap in the face of the season ticket holders of the teams that are vying for it, but this is another way for them to make more money. What do you think about all that?
I guess my initial thoughts is I would love to see the teams be able to play those games at home. However, I do love the idea of making those AFC and NFC championship games on a neutral site, just like the Super Bowl is, because then more than likely there'll be games that weather is not a factor, and so it's just going to get down to basically good football. And I kind of like that idea. I got to believe that they wouldn't select a place that's going to have adverse weather. So, yeah, I kind of like the idea.
So I think what's happened here is Detroit was initially going to be in the mix here, and they are doing something to their turf. So they said no.
Okay.
I want to say SoFi was sort of asked about it, and I don't know 100% why, but they declined.
Okay.
So I think if this occurs, it's going to be in Vegas at their new stadium.
Okay. I mean, yeah, it doesn't matter. As long as it's not a weather impacted game, I think I kind of like the idea.
You could do it in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You could all these. Well, you could still do it in Tampa, even outside. The only thing gets in the way there is rain.
Right.
So there's enough sites to do this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, there's enough sites. But to me, if I'm a guy that has been a fan and a paying fan for 20 years in Green Bay, and you're telling me they're going to go to Vegas to play that championship game after all I've done, or the same guy in Buffalo, or the same guy in Chicago, if the Bears ever play in the playoffs again, I don't think that's fair to the fan.
Well, I think it is fair because for them to reach the championship game, they more than likely would have played at least one home playoff game if they're good enough to have that kind of schedule. If they weren't good enough, they were going to play a playoff game on the road anyway. So I don't think it's I think that fans would potentially get at least one home playoff game, but the conference championship. Man, I think they'd have no problem. Just like if that same fan had his team playing the Super Bowl, they wouldn't be complaining that they had to get on a plane. And
well,
go watch
they did complain initially when that Super Bowl was kind of like moved because I can remember 1963. Bears played in the New York Giants in Wrigley Field championship game. And, the place was going crazy.
I'm sure.
But, of course, they didn't make the kind of money that they make now. So, of these early matchups, you've got Buffalo and Miami in the AFC. You got the Bengals and the Ravens, a rematch from last week. That sure seems like Cincinnati should take care of business. You got the upstart Jaguars against the Chargers. With the Chiefs sitting out to wait to play the winner of the Buffalo. They would play the Jaguars, right? The Jaguar Chargers.
They would play the winner of that game. Okay.
Which is in the AFC? Which of these matchups, these earlier matchups, intrigues you the most?
I think the Chargers at Jacksonville.
Me too.
Both of those teams are new. are fresh to the playoff orbit. I think both of them have good young quarterbacks that are really trending upward and playing well. I like the Chargers. The Chargers were one of my preseason favorites, and I'm just delighted to see that they were able to right their ship and make it to the playoffs. I think their offense, given that their strength is their passing game and Jacksonville's weakness is their passing defense, I think the Chargers get this win, but I'm really excited to see Jacksonville be relevant again.
Trevor Lawrence has come a long way now.
Yeah.
And he looks like a guy that should have been the first guy taken. But is he in the same league at this moment as Herbert?
I think he is. I mean, because Justin Herbert hadn't been in the league that long yet, but Justin's just put up much bigger numbers. I think he's had better coaching. I think he's had a better supporting cast. But certainly, I think he has Lawrence has the potential to put up the kind of numbers that Lawrence has put up. But I think Justin Herbert to me is just his playing much better at this point. When you look at his years in the league so far.
Any chance for Miami with the way Buffalo is playing, and Tua is certainly not Tua.
I don't think they have a chance. If Tua does play, he's possibly going to be rusty. I like Buffalo's chances, and again with this emotional lift that they have, they're going to be playing a little bit extra. I like them in that game.
And then the Bengals at home again against the Ravens. I can't see it'll be any kind of different story than it was last week.
I think the Bengals are probably the second most dangerous team in the AFC. And of course, the Baltimore, Lamar Jackson is questionable for the game. And if he comes back, he's going to be rusty. He hadn't played in weeks. So, yeah, man, I like Cincinnati in this game.
The Eagles get the bye. And so the 2-7 game, the Niners and the Seahawks get in by winning and knocking out Detroit, which then knocked Green Bay out, which was impressive in its own right. The Vikings and the Giants. And then the one that's most intriguing to me, the Bucks and the Cowboys, who do not look all that powerful as we get to the playoffs.
That's going to be a fascinating game for me. And I think that I like the Cowboys' chances if they rely on their running game and kind of let just Dak do the play action and rely on their running game and their defense. Tampa, with the way Mike Evans and Tom Brady were able to hook up this last two games, they look like they offensively could be a problem for the Cowboys. But I like the Cowboys in that game, in a close game, based on their ability to run the football better.
The Vikings are the 3 seed now, and they clearly won the North Division. There's every time I start to believe in them, I mean, it is Kirk Cousins as the quarterback. Right. I think that's like fool's gold. I would not be shocked if the Giants beat them.
I would not be shocked if the Giants beat them too, because Minnesota, when they've not dominated any games. I mean, the games that they've won, even though their record has been impressive, have not been more than 8 points. I mean, they just don't dominate teams. And then when they lose, they get dominated. I don't know that the Giants have enough to beat them. I like Minnesota's offensive weapons. I do like Minnesota at home in this game, but I could see the Giants giving them a run for their money.
And as I look at it, we got Philadelphia 1, San Francisco 2. We've got Kansas City 1, Buffalo 2. Out of all those other teams that are in the mix here, besides those 4 teams, do you see any other team with a chance to win the Super Bowl? Who would that dark horse team be?
So, I mean, I don't see anybody out of that 4 right now that could come in there and wreak havoc. Cincinnati. You got.
I would put Cincinnati as the one team. Yeah. What about San Francisco? This Brock Purdy story is amazing.
I like. Matter of fact, I think San Francisco is probably the hottest team going into playoffs. They've won 10 straight games. Brock Purdy's been solid. He's not making mistakes. He's playing with a lot of confidence, and this defense is playing the best football I think that we've seen defense play this year. So. Yeah, San Francisco, I think, is going to upset somebody in this. I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the conference championship.
Huh. So they beat the Seahawks for sure. And then if they do that, they take on the Vikings or the Giants. I could see that myself.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt. All right, news also very quickly. Cliff Kingsbury gets fired after getting a contract extension like 8 months earlier. Lovie Smith gets fired after 1 year. They're about to hire their fourth coach in 4 years at Houston. That is not giving anybody a chance. I don't quite get that at all. Your take on those things?
No surprises, and certainly there could be some other shoes to drop. But in both of those instances, Cliff Kingsbury just did not show any improvement 1 year to the next. I think his first couple years they did look more respectable, but no surprise with either one of those firings.
I'm surprised about Lovey.
1
year?
But they just were not impressive to me. I mean, they played some close games. I was surprised with the hire of Lovie Smith, to be honest with you. So I'm not surprised at all. I hope they'll be more diligent in their next hire and get somebody that they can invest some time in, because they need that, I think, to get that franchise turned around.
Well, see, Bill O'Brien and David Cooley, right? Those are the guys that were let go besides Lovey. So I don't know. Is it really the diligence in the hire, or is it a lack of patience by the Texans ownership?
I think it's both, but more diligence in the hire. I think they need somebody that is probably a little more connected in terms of coaching, either on the coordinator level or with a team that's had some success. They've just got to be more diligent, I think, in the hiring process. And then when they get the right guy, they've just got to give him some time and get him some players.
Jeff, looking forward to watching all these playoffs with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming in. That is Jeff Moore on the National Football League. He's brought to you in part by the good folks at the Eflin Insurance Company. They are a team, and that's the way they do their insurance, their protection of you. They get to know you. They collaborate with you like good teams do. They sit you down. They'll find out about your family. They'll find out about what's important to you, what you really want to protect, what's your budget, and then they find the exact right thing for you on home insurance, on an auto program, or even life insurance. They take into account all these tangibles by getting to know you, and then they protect you. And if you've got a small to mid-sized business, they are specialists with commercial insurance in those sizes. They will know your product. They will know your personnel. They'll know your assets. They'll forecast you out. And then they'll protect you by whatever budget you've got. It's a fun thing to watch. They'll get to know you if you call 901-386-4777. By the way, that spells out GUR. They picked that number because they're big supporters of the Tigers. 901-386-GUR. That's the Eflin Insurance team. Back in just a minute, we head to Indy to talk college basketball with our Hall of Famer from the Sporting News. That would be Mike DeCourcy, and he comes your way next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Bienvenidos. Welcome to Los Cabos with 4 locations: Quince, Bartlett, Germantown, and now on Goodman Road. Los Cabos serving the best food in town with quality service and a fun family atmosphere. At Los Cabos, food and drink are an important part of the dining experience, so you get exceptional food with cocktails worthy of that food. You'll find the best margaritas at Los Cabos, along with delicious specialty drinks, handcrafted cocktails, beer, and happy hour specials 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. Los Cabos is open for lunch and dinner, with lunch specials every day starting at $7. Come enjoy delicious Mexican dishes and seafood at the best sports bars in town. Visit with family and friends and enjoy Los Cabos Mexican Bar and Grill. Los Cabos, now with 4 locations: Quince, Bartlett, Germantown, and their newest location, 3964 Goodman Road, just a few minutes down the road from Getwell. See you soon at Los Cabos.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code SPORTS at checkout. That's harrys.com, code SPORTS. Enjoy!
Case IH is a proud supporter of the Mississippi Farm Bureau, and thanks to a membership benefits partnership, Mississippi Farm Bureau members receive a discount of up to $500 on every qualifying Case IH tractor and piece of equipment you purchase. This discount may be used with other promotions, rebates, or offers. So join Mid-South Ag Equipment and the Mississippi Farm Bureau and pocket up to $500 in savings. Call Mid-South Ag at 662-890-3141 to get your discount today.
The NFL playoffs are here, and the easiest way to get into the action is with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get started with $150 in free bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up with promo code WIN. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to point spreads to player props, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, with promo code WIN. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
21 plus in select states. Must be present in select states to wager. First online real money wager only. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable free bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbookfanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. For Colorado, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Virginia, West Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 Wyoming, Kansas, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. 1-877-770-STOP Louisiana. 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. TN Redline 1-800-889-9789 in Tennessee.
Hi, fellas. Bill Russell at Russell Brothers Fine Jewelers. And I want to thank all of you who came to see us at Russell Brothers so that Christmas would be very special for your lady. Thank you for the confidence and trust that so many of you have placed in Russell Brothers for over 38 years. And we're going to work even harder in 2023 to let you know how important you are. Whether you just need a simple battery or a $20,000 diamond ring, you will receive the very best in beauty, quality, service, and value. Our exquisite gemstones, our fashionable designs, our huge array of fine jewelry will dazzle you and will help make you a hero. And when you want to let her know how very extraordinary she is, we invite you to come and see us at Russell Brothers Jewelers, 4646 Poplar at Perkins, or visit us at russellbrothersfinejewelers.com. After all, doesn't she deserve the very best?
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Time to talk to the Hall of Famer from This Morning News. That's Mike DeCourcy. I always love his perspective on things, not just college basketball, which we'll get to, but I want his take on the college football championship stinker last night. I mean, Georgia was absolutely unbelievable, bigger, stronger, faster, better plan. I mean, 65-7, that sort of says it all. But we throw around the D word on occasion, dynasty. People are doing that with Georgia. And we know in the last 30 years, there have been 4 teams now that have won back-to-back titles. Georgia could be the first three-peat team, though, since the 30s in Minnesota. Do you think we are seeing Kirby Smart really planting the seeds now for a total dynasty?
Well, I think the seeds are planted, sure, but I think a dynasty in a sport like college football is really difficult to establish, and I think that, I mean, you look at what Alabama has done under Nick Saban. I mean, that's a dynasty. We're talking about now, almost 15 years or so, or maybe longer, of excellence and dominance, dominance at times. I don't think that's. I don't think that 2 years is a dynasty in anything. And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about 2 years. I think Georgia made the playoff in 2017 or 18, somewhere around there. So it was the start of something good, but they didn't really sustain that level, and then now they're back well above that level. So I think that it's a little early to talk about that.
I'm with you. I think a third one sort of changes things a little bit.
Absolutely.
And we know Smart is pretty good because he was part of that Alabama dynasty you just referred to. He's only 47 years old, too. So that is going to be kind of fun to watch as we go. All right. You've got a new bracketology coming out. I took out your old bracketology. So the first thing, 9 teams from the Big Ten, 8 from the ACC, 7 both the SEC and the Big 12. Pac-12's got 4, so does the Big East, Mountain West, the West Coast, and the American all have 2 teams. The American, by the way, now has 4 top 100 net teams. So I think it is sort of an underrated conference. My first question is, how much different will your bracketology be just a few hours, because I know you know, just a few hours from now when you release it?
No, I'm just going to sit down after we finish and put the whole thing together. No.
Right.
Yeah. It'll be different a little, but not a lot. The number of Big Ten teams goes down. The number of ACC teams goes up. NC State saying, got to keep us in, got to put us in. I've been very impressed by what Kevin Keats has done early this year. Kevin's a really good person. I've known him for a long time. So I'm happy for him, and best of luck to them to continue that. But one thing I'll say is, and I'm not sure what the others have done. I know what the polls did, but Houston's still not on my first line. I'll tell you that right now.
I noticed that, and I'm interested in that because they did lose one game to Alabama. It was at home. But other than that, they are killing people. They had a 28-0 run against SMU earlier this past week.
Yeah, I mean, but the people that they're destroying are not impressive. I mean, they have 9 quad 4 victories at this point. I'm not sure that anybody else has 9.
Wow.
I think that might be the most of anyone. Certainly it's the most at the high end of the bracket. It's hard to find somebody with that. Houston had 3, I guess, opportunities to make a statement so far. The Tigers games will come up later. They've had 3 to make some sort of statement. They beat St. Mary's. They beat Virginia. But that Alabama loss at home was really consequential for them. For one, because they're in competition for a 1 seed with Alabama. I don't know how you could have Alabama behind Houston on your bracket when Alabama went in there and won, and they have 3 quad 1s. Houston now has 3 as well. I'm not sure what changed because it was 2 as recent as Sunday. So somebody's classification. I think Oregon slipped into the edge of quad 1, but it's, Oregon as a quad 1 win isn't impressing anybody. I'll be interested to see, if we stopped right now and started, I'd really be curious to see how the committee would view this. Because for me, I think that Houston has to carry this football a lot longer or some of the others have to falter. Right now, Purdue, Kansas, UConn, Alabama all have better resumes to me.
Well, you do have them as a 2 seed. It's not like they're total chopped liver.
Oh, no, they're terrific. First of all, and don't mistake me saying this about their resume to their team, because their team is fabulous. Their team is tremendous. I think they're excellent. I'm not denigrating the team at all. I'm looking at numbers and names, not at how they perform or what they're capable of.
UCF is now a 36 net, which means that Memphis tomorrow has a quad 1 opportunity. Tell me what you think of UCF and how they're not with a 36 net in the conversation here on any bracketology.
Yeah, that's a good question because they haven't played badly. They just haven't played great. Losing the Missouri game that they had and losing it on a midcourt shot was a tough one for them.
Yeah.
That hurt them. And they also have a quad 4 loss to Asheville. So they just haven't really done much. They did beat Oak State on a neutral floor. but they haven't really backed that up with much or been able to back that up with much. I think they're a very capable team, and I think they can play themselves into the tournament bracket, but the Tigers are one of the teams that could help them do that. So obviously it's not what you would want to see in Memphis. I think the only way that UCF gets into the conversation without damaging Memphis's cause is by doing something directly to Houston at this point. And again, as is the case to a large extent with the Tigers, you just can't drop many to others in the league. They played Houston, and they played them very tough on the road, only lost by 6. They get them back before the end of the month at home. And it's not a, I've looked at Central Florida games on television as recently as Sunday, and they're not getting the crowds that their performance warrants.
Well, they never have. That's
yeah. So that's does Houston coming in at number 1 change that with them having a legit shot to pull that off? I'll be very curious to see whether or not Knights fans respond in that regard.
I'll be curious to see how many show up tomorrow. I think school's back in, and they are the biggest school in the country now. So we'll wait and see on that. Here's my question for you, because you had Memphis as a 7 before they lost to Tulane. I am assuming you didn't move them based on beating East Carolina at home and just being mediocre actually in that game. What would a win against the 36 net on the road at UCF do for the Tigers?
Well, I think in my most recent one, I had them down to an 8, and I think that would be a very good win for the Tigers to get, and especially because it's pretty squishy around that 7 line, 6 line, 7 line. There's some opportunity there for the Tigers to climb. But again, I think it's going to, for Memphis, it's going to require success against the better teams in the league because they did the great job against the SEC, but there's only so many opportunities now from now until March for the Tigers to move the needle. They have to keep the needle where it is and then move it where they can. And again, that's Houston, UCF. And not a whole lot else.
Maybe Cincinnati, about the only, because they're a 100 net. Yeah. Your 7s are West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Rutgers. And just seeing them on TV several times now, I would say Memphis can compete with that grouping. 6s, those are Missouri, Duke, Ohio State, and Marquette. I don't know. Those would be fun to watch too. So we'll just have to let the season play out. One real quick thing. Let's just have a little exercise here. We don't have that much time. Oh,
yep.
Real quick. And I just lost my page here. Here we go. Can doggone it, this thing just went crazy on me. I had the rankings right here. There's a school at 50. Who's 15 in the rankings right now? I can't believe this thing just happened.
In the poll?
In the poll.
Oh,
Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
Can Arkansas win the national title?
Not now. Not as presently constituted. If Nick Smith comes back, maybe.
Okay.
But I think they're competing at a really high level for a team that's basically lost 2 starters. I don't know that anybody else. Like Indiana's lost 2 starters and completely dissolved.
Right.
For what Arkansas is to be able to do what they've done with 2 starters down, unbelievably impressive.
Can Virginia?
Can they win the national title?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Let me go to 10. Texas. Without Chris Beard now, that may change everything.
Yeah, it's harder, but they've got the players to do it. And I like Rodney Terry. And I think for Rodney, it's just a question of, the idea, is he good enough coach? I don't worry about that. Do the players regard him? I mean, because there's that substitute teacher thing. Do they buy Rodney? Because they didn't line up to buy Rodney. They joined him to be an assistant coach, and now he's in charge. And that changes the dynamic a little bit. And we've seen coaches do well at times in that circumstance, but we've also seen teams that were capable that weren't able to hold it. So far, it's been great. And like I said, I really like Rodney, so I wish him the best as he tries to push that team toward what it's capable of.
I do this because I'm trying to see how deep this thing really is, where the pool of candidates for a top for a national championship. As usual, we're out of time, but we'll get back to this next week. It's fun. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Have a great week.
Thanks, Dave.
That is Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. He's brought to you by Ken Garland. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Ken knows, it's a big decision you're making. You're making a commitment for that dream home, or even a renovation with innovation, where he'll bring all the modern amenities to the home you love, the location you love, the lot you love. You don't want to move, but you want the California closets. You want the island in the kitchen and the granite tops and all the new appliances. I get it. You want the video room. He can do that to your older home. Or maybe you've got some land you don't know how to utilize, been in your family, and you want that dream home, you're ready to make the move. This is where Ken stands out. Go see what I'm talking about. Go to kengarland.com and then call 751-1632. He's fun to talk to. He's that guy, perfect for a builder. Sees little details, big picture, all at once. You can chat about it. Whether it's that renovation with innovation or it's that brand new dream home, Ken Garland is the guy for you. That'll do it for us. I'll come your way from Orlando tomorrow. Johnny Radio's next. Have a great day, everyone.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Willoshin here for Homer Skelton.